services.
Okay.
You no longer have to lose sleep.
Wow.
You can actually, spend your night in Kampala, travel to Kalangala, be in time for an early morning meeting.
Wow, wow.
As early as 8 in the morning, have the full day in Kalangala, and be back in Kampala.
The more reason for us to have this discussion, actually. The people here, you see, when you talk of Kalangala, people want to think of it as a very far place detached from these town lads, the people for us who dwell in the town. And clearly when you say that, it brings into context. And just an overview picture that I would want to have from you, Mr. Opondo. What is this thing they call Kalangala Infrastructure Services Limited?
Kalangala Infrastructure Services Limited is a private-public partnership.
Okay.
The first of its nature, where you have the government of Uganda, okay, joined hands with the private sector to construct and operate infrastructure on Bugala Island, okay, in Kalangala. Perhaps I'll just give you a brief on its history.
Please.
Way back between 2005 and 2007, an entity called Infraco Africa, which is an entity registered in England, in the UK, funded by the governments of Netherlands, Switzerland, and the UK. Fund the entity called Infraco, which came up with the idea of Kalangala Infrastructure Services. As you may be aware, it's not every day that you find the private sector investing in infrastructure. Definitely. In fact, the private sector never really invests in infrastructure, largely because of...
because they're there, for them it's about profit.
It's about profit. And you want the profits, and
yeah,
within a period that you're able to, to forecast, to see easily. So Infraco then joined hands with the government of Uganda and developed Kalangala Infrastructure Services. So Kalangala Infrastructure Services, we are present in 4 sectors.
Oh.
That is another unique thing. We did the main island road. It used to be a dirt road. Upgraded it to gravel, Class B gravel, ready to receive tarmac. We constructed a water system, so you now have piped water on the entire Bugala Island. We constructed a solar thermal power generation plant, wow, complete with transmission and distribution lines. And of course, what we are perhaps most known for are the ferries.
Exactly.
We constructed 2 ferries and are now operating those 2 ferries.
Wow. So, and that's where I want to pick this particular discussion to interest our viewers, to understand more why, answering the why question. You have Kalangala Infrastructure and Services Limited, but why the need? Why Kalangala? Yeah,
Kalangala, but more specifically Bugala Island.
Yes.
Way back, the government of Uganda got into an agreement with the Oil Palm Uganda Limited.
Oh, yes.
The government of Uganda at the time committed to deliver infrastructure.
Okay.
But like I've indicated, infrastructure is quite expensive. At the time, the government of Uganda did not have the resources and the expertise.
Okay.
So that is now how Infraco comes in. Infraco basically helps to mobilize funds, resources, and expertise for unique, high-risk infrastructure projects. So, and Bugala Island was exactly that. There's no place, there's no other island in the country where you have a power generation facility, you have piped water, you have a Class B gravel road. And leave alone now the sort of ferries that we operate. So why Bugala Island? For the government of Uganda to deliver on its promise of delivering infrastructure.
This particular infrastructure. This particular place, we're looking at a population of like how many people? Because for us to tell the effect of such services to the people, we're looking at like a population.
Yeah, Kalangala has a population of about 67,000 inhabitants.
That's quite a number.
And that is quite a number. Bugala Island is the largest of the islands. As you would be aware, there are 84 islands that constitute Kalangala district. But Bugala is the largest of them and the main one. And that's where our operations are.
Mr. Opondo, also to bring into context, the particular activities you chose or projects you have chosen to do on the island, they have been trickled into remedying some of the challenges of the people there. If you could also take us through what has been the effects, what are the positive effects of some of the activities you've put. For example, you talked about transport, there's water, there's power. How have these changed the lives of the people on this particular island?
You actually just need to pay a visit to the island, and you'll immediately notice that the bulk of the structures, for instance, the houses, the hotels, are only a few years old. So 10 years ago, you literally didn't have permanent structures on the island. Today, you find people dismantling their previously semi-permanent wooden structures and now putting up permanent structures. If, for example, you've been following UNEB results, you'll also see that when results are released, about 10 years ago, in order to see where Kalangala district was, you had to start off reading the list from the bottom. Today you have to start off at the top. So a lot of the social aspects of life in Kalangala, including the economic aspects, have really taken the same route, including such things as health indicators. Today you have private medical facilities coming up. We are seeing improved, statistics on such issues as the communicable diseases and the sort of things. So. And of course, the more obvious one, which any Ugandan would see, is the tourism industry. Right now, if you took the route to Kalangala between Thursday and Sunday, you'd be amazed. You'd think that the entire country is headed to Kalangala.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Of course, opening up the boundaries of Kalangala to the entire world is quite tremendous, as I said. But also, we're looking at most recent times, as you've said, and for the last now 2 years almost, we've been struck by COVID-19. We've been having challenges, and we've been having limitation. There's a point where we saw that people couldn't move and all this. How do some of these facilities put up by your institution help remedy or fit into the times, most recent, the COVID times?
Yeah, COVID has been a big challenge. Fortunately, because of our services, but also our emphasis on health and safety for both our customers, the community, and the staff. The issue of COVID is one which we took up strongly, but looking at our services, how they have been helpful in the face of the COVID. When you look at the transport, the marine transport, the ferry services, of course you remember that for several weeks the country was under total lockdown.
Oh, yes.
The only way to the island was via our vessels, and that was largely because of the systems that we have in place. We were able to ensure, safe carriage of people and their property. One of the things that is emphasized as SOPs is to keep your hands clean. Wash your hands as many times as possible. That would not be very easy without a convenient source of water, treated water. Right now, most homesteads, well, maybe not most, but several homesteads now have access to clean water. We have also ensured that high population places like markets, fishing sites, we've supplied them with, we've provided them with public standpipes. So people are able to ensure that their hands are clean. We have our power services. Again, that is a critical thing. And beyond the services of transport, power and water, we have also been very much involved with the community. Trying to ensure that the means of health message reaches every
sensitization.
home. Yes, sensitization. We've done that. We've reached out to the communities. And if you looked at the COVID statistics, I believe Kalangala is one of the districts where
the worst cases were registered.
Where, not the worst cases, but where the impact hasn't been as much, despite the fact that one of the first cases was actually from Kalangala.
Island,
But we made the most of the fact that we were the gateway to the island at that period. All the other operators were grounded. So we ensured that everything that was demanded by means of health was in place. So it was not, we made it extremely difficult for example, somebody to come from the mainland to the island and, without checking and that sort of thing.
Wow.
So we did play a big role.
And speaking of that, having looked at the COVID-19 and the pandemic, and clearly there was much to be done by the people of the Kalangala Infrastructure Services Limited. However, one would want to know, if I may also ask, most of these projects, are they progressive? Are we looking at much more yet to be done? Or is this the end? Was this the target? Have we achieved and we are hands down now? Or we are, what yet more is coming?
Felix, by the nature of the services we are offering, they can't be static.
It's not a one-off.
It's not a one-off.
Yeah.
They are progressive. For instance, when you look at the ferry services,
maintenance,
and all that, today we transport about 60,000 people per month. When we commenced ferry operations in 2012, the number was just somewhere between 30 and 40. When you look at our power, before we came in, there was a generator which served mainly the Kalangala town center, which had just about 450 connections. Today we are talking about over 5,100 connections. And this number is growing.
It's growing.
Including the traffic, the same with the water. So this is not a one-off. We have not hit the target, and we are actually looking at expanding all those services. We're already expanding them, and we expect to expand them more.
When we talk about these services, one would wonder, personally I'm interested in traveling to such places, and many other viewers out there, often the people in Kalangala or for tourism purposes. Are these that we are talking about, for example, you look at the ferry services, I know for a fact that the marine is a bit expensive and all these things. Do we have, with the coming of these activities that you brought in, what did this change in terms of cost Because I understand previously it must have been hard and very exorbitant and what. Did this come with implications of reduction into the costs of power, water, and even transport?
Yes, I'll start off with transport.
Yes.
Whereas to the traveler, the wananchi, before we came in, it wasn't costing them to cross to the Kalangala via Bukakata. Even now, it doesn't cost them money. However, the big difference now is efficiency. Before you had, on average 2 to 3 crossings a day, and it wasn't very reliable. Today, you have 8 crossings from each side per day, and the timing is very definite. It's a scheduled service. So, whereas you don't have to dig into your pocket to get onto the ferry, just like it was before, but today you're more certain about the crossing. You know precisely what time you're going to cross. Now, for somebody who is in a business, whether commercial or government and that sort of thing, you could say that it's now cheaper to do business in Kalangala, because waiting times have been slashed, almost eliminated, if you're able to keep time. With the precise time when the vessels cross and that sort of thing. So in terms of cost of transport, that has come down drastically, and that is evident from the number of commercial enterprises that are coming up on the island.
Yes.
And coupled with that is the capacity of the vessels that we operate.
Yes.
You can have a 40-feet truck container on the vessels.
Okay.
That it wasn't the case before.
Wow.
So these vessels have a capacity of 20 vehicles. So you can see that we've kind of bridged the island and the mainland. So in that aspect, the cost of travel has come down, which is also now reflected in the cost of business. When you look at our power services, the cost is more or less the same as we have on the mainland. Of course, especially the manufacturing sector, the business sector, like it is in the rest of the country, they feel the tariffs are high, but that is currently a bigger national issue, which the government is actually trying to address. When it comes to water, our water services are actually cheaper than you have elsewhere. So, yes, the cost of services has come down.
Reasonably, at least.
Yeah.
I'm also as I'm very excited by the transport aspect. One time we were in Mombasa, we noticed that the ferry would close for free. People would get on, and of course, seeing such a service in Uganda is quite interesting. Also, something to pick interest in is what does the future hold?
The future is
it's bright.
Is very bright.
Indeed.
Not just bright. It is
it
is very bright. The present is already bright, and I think the present gives us an indication of what the future holds. Now, why do I say the future is bright? We've looked at the efficiency of the transport. That is only expected to improve, including the number of services.
Yeah.
Right now, there is a bit of pressure coming in from the public and the leadership of the Kalangala district to increase on the number of crossings and, if possible, provide nighttime crossings.
That I was going to ask about.
That is something that the company has already prepared for, and as soon as government is ready, we will be able to provide that as well.
So far we have 8 crossings, you said?
From each side, from either side. Yeah.
So that means people coming from Kalangala have 8 opportunities to cross over, and so do the people of Kampala also have 8 opportunities. And this is from which points? Because I understand there are different points of what?
Yes, there are 2 main points to Kalangala. There is the one of Entebbe to Kalangala, and then you have the one of Bukakata, that is on the Masaka side, and that is where we operate.
Okay.
So we operate there with the 2 vessels, and every hour there is a vessel crossing, except between midday and 2 o'clock.
Okay.
So we start off at 7 up
to cross. I'm coming from Bukakata to the other side of the island.
Each crossing is approximately 30 minutes.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. The vessels are pretty fast, very stable.
Yeah.
In fact, most people who haven't traveled on water, normally they are apprehensive when they think of crossing to the island for the first time. But if you're traveling to Kalangala, you should actually be more worried about the time you are on the road rather than the time on the ferries.
Okay.
The safety levels are unmatched.
Wow. As Kalangala Infrastructure Services, we would want to know what's in your perspective is the contribution towards the industry of tourism, because this is now the key point. How are we partnering with the various entities to bring sense to this tourism industry?
Yeah, the tourism industry, there's first of all the basic infrastructure which you must have in place.
Yes.
The place must be accessible. Yeah. You should have reliable power.
That's true.
And you must have clean, running water. All those are things we have attended to. However, there is something that is unique about the tourism industry in Kalangala. Ecotourism is one of the attractions to Kalangala, and a lot of times when you have development, there's normally a clash between development and the environment.
Yes.
So we are working closely with the district to ensure that while there is development, that must not impact negatively on the ecotourism. So to that end, we are in discussions with the district so that they can have areas that are demarcated for industrial growth.
Yes.
So that what it takes people to Kalangala,
a
clean environment, good rainfall, calm environment, and all that is not impacted by development. So Kalangala Infrastructure Services, I refer to it as KIS, though when you go to the island, most people prefer to refer to it as KIS. But to avoid being misinterpreted, I prefer to use KIS. So KIS is very alive to the issue of development, the issue of tourism. How do we contribute towards the growth of both
maintaining the ecosystem
and the ecosystem? Correct.
There's something quite interesting. I know for a fact that when such projects come into an area, definitely people will benefit directly and indirectly. I would want to also get into the depth of discussion of what are the major ways these people of Kalangala have benefited indirectly away from the roads and what, because in one of the storylines I saw that you have some of the people you employ even on the ferry and what, if you could share with our viewers some of these stories, these winning stories that you people have had over the years.
Yeah, Felix, we are very focused on developing the community.
Indeed.
And as you've indicated, I don't know where you read that, but today, if you came across a young marine engineer or a marine captain, and they are not over 40 years of age, say they are 30 and below, then it's KIS that trained them, irrespective of where you find them.
Wow.
Whether it's in Lake Choga, Vuma, as long as they're Ugandans, know that that is the input of KIS. So when we started, we commenced our field operations in 2012. But like I indicated, we constructed the vessels. So while we're constructing the vessels, we're also training young people straight from school.
Okay.
That was between 2011 and 2012. Today, 2 of those young people, all natives of Kalangala, 2 of them are now captains. Wow. You have another 2 who will be captains anytime. And we have 2 who are now qualified marine engineers. And then we have another lot in the pipeline, including a group that is slightly over a year old. So we've been very focused on developing the community. Our employment policy is very strong on giving priority to the natives,
the common people,
and that cuts across. That's not just for our ferry services, but also our power and water services, including administration services.
Okay.
So that is direct benefits in terms of employment, but there also these other indirect benefits.
Like, for example, when you're doing work there, you buy food, you buy cooking, some of those opportunities that come with such projects.
Exactly. And there's also the support that we render to the community.
Okay.
Like I said earlier, when we had the COVID situation, we did not only sensitize, but we also provided support in kind.
Incentives,
we spent in excess of 200 million shillings, ensuring, for example, that our health workers on the island are fully protected. Gumboots, gloves, masks,
PPE,
complete, full PPEs. We made sure that was provided across the entire island. We supported in the first lockdown when we had the isolation centers. We provided food to those centers. And even for our services like water, we've tried to make sure that we get water to points which would not otherwise, be commercially viable, but because we recognize the impact it will have on women, on school-going children, and we provided water in some of those communities.
Okay. Now, again, there's an aspect of consistency, and for us, it's key. Majorly when you have projects like this, it's important that we bring out some of this whole things, purposes of trust. The fact that you've been on the island for this time and you've been able to do some of these activities continuously, one after the other. I wanted just to make a comment, probably let's take a break. When we come back, that's where we'll be picking it up from. We'll be looking at how have you been able to keep the consistency in making sure these services are available for the people on the island. Let's take a break. We'll be back shortly.
Thank you.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Welcome to the home of our stars. Come on in. We have our movies, gossip, reality, conflict, tulinane comedy. Basirebo baffe bonna live right here, because no matter where you go, this is the home of our stars.
This year, as Power Magic Mix 3, we are delighted to invite you to see, experience and celebrate with us. Power Magic, the home of our stars. MultiChoice Uganda is regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission.
Patriotism is a feeling of love, devotion, and the willingness to sacrifice for one's country.
I say no to corruption because I put my country first. I choose peace over violence because I put my country first.
I love Uganda. I serve Uganda. I sacrifice for Uganda. I'm loyal to Uganda. I love myself.
Be patriotic. Uganda first. This message is brought to you by the National Secretariat for Patriotism Co-Uganda, Office of the President.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite shows.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. Usage and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Well, welcome back, and of course we're picking it up from where we did leave it, and still looking at Kalangala Infrastructure Services Limited, that has caused a change of life for many people. For some of you who have visited the island, you know where it was probably 10-15 years ago and where it is today. I'm very much impressed by the fact that we have all these routes, 8 at least in a day. What a wonder. And still about that, I would want also to engage you about this issue of consistency. How do you keep consistent? We have had very many projects, even in that particular area. You could be knowing more than I do, that people come, they start, they never finish, they go, people come, they start. So what informs your consistency as you execute some of these projects?
Yeah, Felix, as I indicated to you, KIS is a private-public partnership. On the government side, we have the Uganda Development Corporation.
Okay.
Actually, the government of Uganda is the biggest shareholder in KIS, with a 46% shareholding.
Okay.
Then the other shareholders, Infraco Africa, with 34%, and we have Electra with 20%. As I indicated earlier, Infraco brings together funding and expertise in infrastructure development and operation. So we have a strong support system with you know, a lot of experience, expertise. Not only in construction, but also in management of operations. And that coupled with the support from the government of Uganda through UDC, so we are not only able to ensure consistency, but also to have